Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back as we are moving through this Descendant series, where now we're going to discuss the energies of having a Capricorn Descendant, which means you have Cancer rising. That was the energy ascending at the time and location of your birth. And the opposite point in your chart is the Descendant, which is Capricorn, and tells us more about the energies that you seek to connect with and understand in order to experience more of your own energies, and to give you some insights into why these Capricorn energies are especially important for you in your chart. So Capricorn is the 10th sign of the zodiac, and it is about how we show up with authority in our lives, how we work hard to get what we have. It's about putting in time, energy, and effort. Capricorn is where we are mastering all of ourselves in the real world. It's where we're also understanding what matters to us for the long term, where we want responsibility and reliability from others as well as from ourselves. When you have Capricorn on the Descendant, there is a seriousness around relationships and connections, where you take them seriously and you expect or need the same from others. This is also where you are maturing and perhaps even learning some big life lessons through your relationship experiences. Capricorn is also the energy of mentors, authorities, people we look up to, those who teach us something along the way. And so when you're younger, you could be one who really looks up to those who embody Capricorn energies. And then as you grow and mature, you become that Capricorn archetype as well. Perhaps then you have a lot of wisdom and experiences in relationships that you're able to offer or understand. Now, the Capricorn energy is known for being methodical, being a planner, wanting time and space to think things through, to understand how is this going to work? How will this benefit me? How will this be something that is correct for me? And so you might feel or experience those themes in your own life through connections. And you also might have that type of filter on the type of people that you do bring into your world, because there is a seriousness here. And there could be that you need time to process and assess, as well as a longer time to get to know someone. And that is a Capricorn strength, where you're thinking of the long term and how is this going to play out? Where is this going to go? Can I take this seriously? Is this really good for me? And you could also find that you draw in people who embody those Capricorn energies who are older than you. So maybe you have been really connected or drawn to people who are older, who have more time and experiences under their belt. This is where you could be drawn to those romantically who are older than you, because you don't perhaps want childish or immature energies. You take relationships seriously, you take commitment seriously. And again, this is a filter into how you connect with people and when and if you do. The Capricorn energy also can feel strong on its own, where you might not desire as many connections, but you want good quality ones. There is respect here, including self-respect. There is integrity. There's a sense of, I'll wait for the right people to show up. I'll wait. I have no problem doing things on my own, focusing on what I need to focus on until someone who really matches or is a fit for my energy is present and available. And this could also be important to understand because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And so your natal Saturn in your chart is important for understanding more of the connections that will last, that will work. And Capricorn Descendant can have long-term friendships, long-term partners, collaborations, relationships, because that's one of your strengths. You're in it for the long haul. And you can also be very particular and selective so that you do have more time, energy, and space for those that you deem worthy, for those that are a good match for your energy. Now, with the Saturn rulership, you would go to wherever your natal Saturn is in your chart. This chart is for April 1966, and you can see that is when Saturn was in Pisces and actually conjunct Chiron and conjunct Venus. So this is a very important energy signature to understand when interpreting that Capricorn Descendant. Now, obviously, you probably don't have this exact same lineup of planets, but you would start with your natal Saturn and notice if it's conjunct any other planets, especially personal planets, because in this case, Saturn is quite influential here over this Venus and working with Chiron in Pisces. So this would mean that the Chiron energy is actually influencing Saturn. So these would be spiritually, in Pisces, spiritually connected relationships that have a bigger purpose in one's life would be a very simple interpretation of this energy. Saturn in Pisces is making sure to see somebody for who they really are and to not idealize them. Now, what I want to focus on with the Saturn in your chart, however, is the significance of Saturn transits and how it's more important for you in relationships. And this includes your Saturn return, which will happen possibly 3 times in your life, but every Saturn return is important for you and the people in your world, these connections that you have. Because the Saturn return happens every 28, 29, 30 years, there's a maturity and a growth that takes place through your relationships, through your connections. And you could even have relationships and connections that are karmic, that are from other lifetimes, where you are working them out in this lifetime through whatever Saturn is showing you. Because Saturn is about our real world application of energies and time. Saturn is the gatekeeper of time, the timekeeper. This is where you're working with time and timing in a very important way in your relationships, and it's the Saturn transits that'll show you what you're working through. So going back to those Saturn returns that happen in your late 20s, your late 50s, and your late 80s, this is an important time of understanding what these connections mean to you. If they're working, if they are practical, if they are reasonable, rational, there's things that the Capricorn Descendant assesses to determine if it's a relationship that you need or not. Now, the strength is in the business relationships, which is a Capricorn domain, where you're good at Capricorn connections in business, in partnerships, negotiations. That's where you could really excel. And then that's also where you might take that same relational template and apply it to your personal world. So the Capricorn energies are how you look to connect with others. And it's serious. Again, you take it seriously. And then it's your natal Saturn that shows you more about what those themes are and the prominence of them during your Saturn returns. Also the Saturn opposition. The Saturn opposition happens 14 years or so after each Saturn return. The other important thing here with Saturn as the ruler of your Capricorn Descendant is evaluating and checking in on relationships and connections every 7 years. every 7 years, because that's part of a Saturn cycle. So Saturn being the energy of what you're putting work into, time into, there could be powerful relationship themes for you every 7 years where you have to check in on how it's going, if it's working for you, if it's something that is still in alignment with your goals, your ambitions. There's also the need to be recognized wherever we have Capricorn. So feeling recognized and respected. Also perhaps, there's things here about detachment with Capricorn where you hermit. You want to be left alone. You want time and space to be in your own energy. And that would be an important quality as well for somebody with Capricorn Descendant to note. Now, this Capricorn Descendant with the Cancer rising is related to parental energies. And I discuss that more in we'll call it the sister video, where I talk about Cancer on the Descendant. So please watch that if you want more about how this energy works. But this is the signs of the parental axis. And so your parents' relationship and their dynamics would have more significance for you. It's also important to look at if Saturn is connected to any of your personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, or Mars, as that would be very influential for relationships. Now in this one, Saturn is conjunct Venus in Pisces in the 9th house. And so this could be the energy of somebody who really needs a deeper personal connection, but it also can be someone who wants to disappear, who wants to be able to do their own thing, who wants somebody to share the adventure of the 9th house, but also needs it to be meaningful spiritually, emotionally, and otherwise. Saturn conjunct Venus can be a very heavy weight that Venus carries and feels, especially with this Chiron here. So actually relationships could provide deep spiritual healing, and that would be the higher expressions of those, although the lower expression could be feeling very alone in the world, very alone, very much in your own world or doing your own thing with this lineup, working through some wounding, whether that is spiritual, emotional, or otherwise. But this is someone who is learning a lot through connections about what they truly seek and what they need. And I feel too like, this lineup here of planets in Pisces has an assist from this Neptune in Scorpio, and they're even trining the ascendant. And that means that if they're trining the ascendant, they are sextiling the descendant. So all of these aspects are important for understanding what that Saturn energy is really looking for. And it can be very selective. It can be the energy of nobody's good enough if your standards are too high. And in this chart, there's some energy of deeply healing. I always feel this as age of Pisces energies when we have both Chiron and Saturn in Pisces. The disconnection from your own power. This could be someone who gives all their power away in relationships and is learning not to do that, is learning to trust themselves in connections even more. So what I would recommend is not only looking at your Saturn, but the aspects that your Saturn makes in other parts of your chart that influence your connections. And with the Capricorn Descendant, it can be later in life that you find a relationship that really works for you. You could feel like your relationships take longer to form, that they aren't happening as fast as other people in your peer group, for example. Like you're the last to get married. Sometimes with Capricorn, you're the first to get married with Capricorn Descendant. Because Capricorn is traditional. And so maybe there's a sense of, well, I got married because that provided stability and certainty for me. But with the Capricorn Descendant, it typically plays out as things come about later in life after you've grown and moved through some lessons. Again, it can be karmic. There can be things that you have to just simply experience. That is the Capricorn energy. And then you've gained more knowledge and wisdom from that experience about what the right connections mean for you, what really works in your life, and the people that you choose to have around you. So do check out your Saturn, which can be anywhere in your chart, in any sign, and that shows you what you are meant to take seriously, where you invest in yourself, you invest the time, energy, and work to be very responsible, to honor your commitments, to be aware of what it really looks like. Actually, it's funny, I just got an intuitive hit that sometimes this lineup of Saturn conjunct Chiron and Venus can be wanting to just escape and go into a monastery. Or you just want to, focus on your spiritual connection, spiritual growth in this lifetime. That could be one manifestation of this energy. So that is a basic look at the Capricorn Descendant. And again, if you're interested, you might want to also look at the video on the Cancer Descendant and why it's significant to also know the connection between your moon and your Saturn in your chart. Because the moon is the ruler of your rising, which is Cancer. In this chart, we have the moon in Leo at 0 degrees. So you would look at, okay, what does my moon need? And how is my Saturn fulfilling that need? Or is my Saturn negatively impacting my needs? Which could be the case. If Saturn squares the moon, that can be depression. That can be a sense of, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't feel like my emotional needs are understood or heard. Whereas if Saturn is in a trine with your moon, that is much more beneficial, mature, emotionally aware. If your Saturn and your moon do not make any aspects, then you would need to intentionally tune in to what your moon sign needs and how it expresses itself through that Cancer rising. And then it could be like the Saturn is in the background, standing strong, observing, watching, weighing that part of yourself, and then is the gatekeeper for those 7th house connections. So I hope this helps direct you into more about your own chart, more to look at, more to understand, more to be aware of. And I'll be back with more videos here as we move through all the descendants. I'll be talking about Aquarius and Pisces next. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you back here soon.